Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Laura Hallett, and it's my pleasure to be the spiritual director here. And welcome to an evening of exploring the mystics. We call this night Awakening Mystics, where we look at some of the new thought leaders throughout the centuries that have brought a different point of view to this idea of mysticism and this experience of the divine in their lives. And so each month we look at a different mystic from a different faith tradition. And so far we've done Rumi and St. Teresa and St. Francis of Assisi. Tonight we are looking at one that's not as well known as being a mystic, but more of a philosopher. But he is also a Christian mystic from the early days. His name is Plotinus. And Plotinus was born in 204 AD in a little place near the Nile Delta. And he was raised in the Greek tradition, and so he studied many of the Greek philosophers at that time. He later moved to Roman territories where he became a teacher. And so Plotinus is a very interesting fellow. He's one of the first early Christian mystics. Plotinus had a point of view of that is very much in alignment with our New Thought point of view here. And so we're going to explore that a little bit tonight and do a little bit of his spiritual practice, which he called divine wandering. And so before we get started tonight, I just want to welcome everybody that's here joining us in the sanctuary. Thank you all for being here. And I want to say hi to everyone that's joining us online. You guys wave at the camera there and just thank our online participants. I also want to thank our practitioner that's holding high watch tonight, Valerie Weiner, for her consciousness and service to our community. So, Plotinus. As I said, he was born in Egypt, studied in the Greek tradition, became a Roman philosopher and a Christian mystic. His basic belief was very much like ours in the fact that it was a triune in nature. So in our philosophy, we talk about spirit, soul, and body being the three aspects of the divine, each one of them complete in itself and yet all part of the divine. Plotinus talked about him a little bit differently. He called spirit or God the one or the absolute. And for him, this was part of the world that is so sure of itself, it doesn't even have to know itself any more than that. It is simply the existence of everything. All things are part of this one, and this one is part of all things. This philosophy is called panentheism, that we study here in Centers for Spiritual Living, and that Plotinus was well versed in. And this idea of panentheism is that spirit or God or the universe or intelligence or whatever you want to call it is manifested in all creation, but it is so much more than any one particular creation. And so it transcends all of that. So as I said, Plotinus had the triune nature. The first thing was the one, the absolute. The second part of his triune nature was the intelligence or intellect. It's what he called it. What we in Science of Mind would probably call the mind. It was that part that comes from the one, is part of the one. It is not as much as the one. It is not. It's separate from it in a way that it is not the totality of the one, but it's still part of it. And then the third aspect he called the soul. And again, that's the part of the one, but not all of the one. His philosophy was a little bit different because he believed that each one of the second and the third part of the triune nature is actually emanates from the one. He described it as the one becoming so full that it overflows into the intellect. And then the intellect, through the course of it, becomes so full of it that it overflows into the soul. And so there was this idea of emanation, this overflowing, that one thing becomes the other part of it, the next thing and the next thing, and so forth. One of the ideas that he had that I find really fascinating about the soul, he said that let me get this right now, the soul is not in the body is in the soul. Okay. So we often think, I'm a body with a soul inhabiting this body. So we say we're a physical being having a spiritual experience because my soul is in this physical form. But in his philosophy, that the physical form is actually part of the soul, that all physical form is part of the soul. So we have the intellect, which is that governing part of each individual experience. We have the one, which is the totality of everything, and yet then we have the soul, which was the physical representation of it, which we often think of soul in our vernacular of this 21st century, is that it's this thing that inhabits other physical forms. And so I thought shifting it around that way was quite interesting. But he was very much about using what the philosophers call dialectic reasoning to get to a conclusion. And so that's what he called his divine wondering, was moving through ideas until you get to the truth of it. And so he would do that in meditation and contemplation. He would spend a lot of time in his meditations and really reasoning within himself to get to the truth that felt undeniable within his own soul. And I find that for me, it's an easy way of doing that. It's like in our spiritual practices, we have something we call argumentative treatment, where we argue with ourselves about the truth of something until we become centered in that truth, till that truth becomes very clear and very apparent to us. And I think that was very much what Plotinus was doing in his dialectic reasoning, or his divine wondering, was he was convincing himself. He was getting to a place where what he knew was undeniable, where he was so sure of what it was that there was no way that he could not understand it and not be clear. It's I often say, once you know, you can't unknow something. So once you know this truth, you can't unknow that's what's happening. Plotinus was so sure that this one was this presence of love, of beauty, of grace. He called it, in one of his, he wrote it, a lot of his work was done in poetry, and one of his poems translated says something like, "The light of the one is shining so brightly, it shimmers," like he uses the word foil, which is like a thin piece of metal from the Middle Ages, so it shines like a foil in the sunlight. And so to me that was just like this wonderful visual of this idea of this one, this spirit, this universe, this, and whatever word works for you, is so beautiful that it constantly is shimmering, so filled with light that it shimmers back in reflection to us. He has lots of different poems that describe it in these beautiful ways of getting to that place of a clear understanding of the nature of spirit. As I said, he was a Christian mystic. He did a lot of his work refuting the Gnostics. So the Gnostics were it's a group of Christianity, sort of. It has its own ideas and beliefs. There's a definite sense of an evil presence in Gnosticism that is not necessarily present so much in Christianity, at least the Christianity that I practiced. I think other forms of Christianity have a very strong evil component to them also. I don't subscribe to that, but so he spent a lot of his time arguing this dialectic reasoning about ideas that came from Gnosticism, which was pretty strong at that time in the world. You may have heard of the Gnostic Gospels, which were books that were written and then were hidden away, and so some of the stuff comes from that. Not all Gnosticism comes from the Gnostic Gospels, but some of it, overflows to each one. But his work in a Christian mysticism comes from a lot of the work that he did. He was considered to be the founder of what is called Neoplatonism. So he was a student of Plato, and he studied him, but he took Plato to a new level, which became known as Neoplatonism. And it is the mystical form of Plato's philosophy. It is the taking it into that deep connection, that deep spiritual knowing that is available through mystics. Remember, mystics are just people who have experienced that conscious union with spirit. They've experienced the divine in some way in their lives, and then they are forever changed by it. And Plotinus was certainly one who was. So we're going to do a little meditation that's very similar to what Plotinus would have done in his divine wandering. And we're going to look at just what's happening in our own lives through this process. And so I invite those of you that are joining us online to get yourselves comfortable, and those of you that are in the room here. And we're just going to experience a little bit of my version of Plotinus's divine wandering meditation. So I'll have Joe get us a little bit of music going here, and maybe dim the lights a bit, and we'll set ourselves up for an experience in Plotinus mysticism. And so, as always, we just begin by settling into our bodies. You can do that by just beginning to relax your shoulders. I like to press my back up against the chair so I feel it fully. And I know that it's supporting me. My feet are on the ground. And I feel the pressure on the soles of my feet where it's touching my shoes and the floor. I just begin to bring my awareness to my breath. Noticing how the breath moves into my body, the rise and the fall of my abdominal cavity, where it is moving with my diaphragm and my lungs. I just notice my arms laying gently on my lap. Drop my shoulders down and relax my neck. I tend to hold tension there, so it's always good for me to consciously relax it. So let's begin by examining that triune nature of the divine, that triune nature of spirit. Let's start with that one, the absolute, the perfection, the all in the all. Just begin to imagine the fullness of that one. That one all-pervading presence that encompasses everything. Begin to think about everything in your life as part of that one. There's no separation from your house and your body and your loved ones and the food that you consume today. Each one of those things is an emanation of that one. And each one of those things is absolutely perfect right now. And so from the fullness of this one, from its overflow, comes the intellect. That part of our consciousness that knows, that feels, that thinks. It is that reasoning part of our lives. It is the mind, that creative aspect of our being, from which all of our experiences emanate. It is the birthplace of thought before thought is realized. Spend a moment with your thought. What has it been like lately? What thoughts have preoccupied you or consumed your time? What thoughts are you happy with right now? What thoughts would you like to have more of? Which thoughts would you like to change? Or maybe even eliminate from your experience altogether? Is there a pattern to your thoughts? In other words, certain thoughts come at certain times in your life. Can you easily detach yourself from your thoughts? Our intellect is part of us, but it's not all of us. What role are you allowing it to play in your life? Now let's shift to that third aspect of the triune nature of the universe, the soul. Plotinus tells us that the body is part of the soul. What is the soul of your body? The foundation of it. Everything in form has a soul. Think about the physical things in your life that are important to you. What is the soul of those things? The soul of your home. The soul of your objects in your home. Perhaps you share your home with another, a beloved pet, a beloved person. What are their souls? Move outside of your home to the environment around you. Can you recognize the soul of the rocks and the plants? What about the soul of the mountains that surround this valley? Beings that have been here for hundreds of thousands of years. What is the soul of the land? Soul is our way of being. How are we being with other souls around us? The intellect is about thinking and doing. So how are we interacting with those souls around us? And the one, the fullness and the allness and the totality of everything. Can you feel the souls all as one? All part of that unified consciousness. The intellect working in unison throughout all form. So as we come to the conclusion of this contemplation, ask yourself, what do I want to take with me? To allow myself to wonder about over the next day or two. What ideas or feelings are most prominent for me right now? As I just invite you to return your awareness to your body once more. Maybe take in a couple of more purposeful breaths. Begin to gently move. Stretch your neck. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Notice the chair beneath you and the movement and sound around you. And when you feel complete, just go ahead and gently open your eyes. And so we like to spend a few moments just in conversation about anything that came up during that experience for you. So we have some microphones. You won't necessarily hear your voice in the room, but the audience joining us on YouTube can definitely hear you better if you speak into the microphone. So if there's anything that'd like to be shared from that experience.
It really felt like wandering through my life and through where I live and all that. It did. It felt like wandering. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. I thought it was really appropriate that we're sitting on a labyrinth, which is a divine wandering right here, right here for us. So, for me, I got actually kind of lost track of. Generally, as I lead a meditation, I open my eyes periodically and look at the clock, and I realized it had been like 8 minutes since I had last opened my eyes, which is highly unusual. So I was really lost in it, even though I was leading it. So it was, again, I was experiencing the things around me. Mm-hmm. Thinking of the things in my yard and my house and the soul of my fruit trees. I'm really into my fruit trees right now, folks.
and there was love and joy in that process of, at least there was for me, love and joy.
Beautiful.
Okay. For me, it was a deeper awareness again about when we say one, this oneness. I am not Jewish, but my husband is, and I have heard that the last sentence a Jew speaks before they go to the other side is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one." Everything comes back to this oneness. And it's that which is everything and is everywhere, and we cannot really comprehend it. And I think that when I speak about the mind, I feel that my brain is the instrument of the mind. That the mind is that part of me which I take with me, but that the brain is what helps me to functioning now in this world and the experiences. And I struggled a little bit with that everything is soul. So I realized when I switched the word soul to spirit, everything was easy because I believe that spirit is in everything, everywhere. Every stone, every tree, every person. And, we'll say the spirit of America, the spirit of 1776. We'll say the spirit of the mountain. In Hawaii, they probably call the spirit of the valley. So to me, spirit is easier, but it's just a word. It's just a word.
Absolutely.
That's how I went through. But I have to say, you are just wonderful when it comes to meditating.
Oh, thank you.
I never want to come out.
Oh, thank
At
you.
least not that quickly.
I think you make a great point there, Bridget, because we get so caught up on the semantics, on the words that we use, And, I mean, wars have been fought over words,
Exactly.
and I think if we could just like understand it within our own being, and it doesn't make any difference what I call it or you call it, or, people around the world call it, it's just a word. And it's a word that I begin to understand for myself. So, thank you.
Yeah, so
You.
tonight is everything I know about Plotinus.
Perfect.
Thank you. I was really practicing that in my head.
Yeah, Judy and I
We get all the way over.
on the way
Plotinus.
Plotinus.
Is what you taught tonight.
Oh.
That's everything I know about Plotinus. I was going to look him up on YouTube, and I wound up watching the rise of the Sumerians. And
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah, rabbit hole. YouTube's a rabbit hole.
so I really appreciate his philosophy on the body being a part of the soul, and that everything has a soul. Because, and you were talking in the meditation about the foundation of, what you think or what you believe, and yeah, I kind of went off on that, and I had from the time I was very young, my parents taught me that there was a God, and that Jesus was a Christ and had divinity, and my foundation, my beliefs are kind of based on that. And so, we were taught that only people had a soul. So it's really nice to be able to be inclusive of my cat. The various dogs and cats I've had, and I really like collecting rocks. So, that's a really nice. In fact, I was out this morning going through all these rocks that I found in my river rock out in the, trying to figure out if are they really petrified wood, or so I really did appreciate that part of it, and it makes me look at my cat in a little different light, and my home. Gosh, I've lived longer in that home than I have anywhere in my life. So I really like that part of it, and thank you, Laura, for Plotinus.
Plotinus. Myrna?
This really helped explain something I've been experiencing in my and around my home. I never thought of my home as having a spirit. I think of this building and this center as having the spirit and all the spirits that we bring. But I never thought of my home that way. And something I was noticing finally, something was happening. I work a split shift. I go to work at 6 in the morning. I get off at 9. And I come home, and for months and months and months, I just felt really tired when I got to my house. And I just wanted to go back to bed. And then it occurred to me, in wondering where this was coming from, that maybe I was labeling things the wrong way. I get out of my car and I'm tired. I get to my front porch and I feel very different. And I was labeling it as part of being tired, but it isn't. It's the spirit of my home and feeling comfortable, safe, and belonging to that spirit. And since I've made that shift in my thinking, I'm enjoying it, and I'm feeling uplifted instead of tired. And what you were talking about the spirit in everything, I hadn't. Now I have that thought when I go back to my house that I can appreciate it on a totally different level.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think I like what Bridget said about using the word spirit instead of soul, because we can think of the spirit of things, the soul of things. I don't know, just a little of semantics. I think spirit is something we use a little bit more, like the spirit of this, the spirit of the people, the spirit of the love, the spirit of the house, the spirit. But I think it's just interchangeable with whatever word we want to call it. Whatever works fine for us. Do you have something?
I'm not really sure. Everyone
Okay.
keeps kind of handing this to
Handing
me,
you the
so I,
mic.
I guess I'm supposed to say something.
You're under no
I
obligation.
had already agreed that I would just put on my listening ears
Okay.
today, but and I do apologize for being a little
worries.
late. My GPS had me going in circles,
Uh-huh.
but I made it. I thought it was lovely. I definitely understand and vibe with the fact that everything is spirit or soul, that everything has its energy or however, it fits for the individual. I particularly enjoyed the part where you were talking about the mountains. I have a great affinity to the land wherever I am, the beautiful landscape that we have here, and getting to kind of go up and enjoy that space is something that is very dear to my heart. So, but even everything. That's why I have a hard time killing bugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Always, I do. I try to put them outside.
Yes,
And
do
I
too.
apologize if they have to go if there's something dangerous. I know I'm a little odd, but
No.
so I like it because you're my kind of odd.
Definitely, you're kind of odd. I do make a distinction with scorpions. There's a limit.
That's
I
kind
tell
of, yeah.
every scorpion, you chose bad karma today.
Yeah.
But,
I've been known to take black widows, get them and take
Yeah.
them far away. And,
Yes.
if I prefer that, but, we can't, we have to think of the individuals in our
Absolutely.
home if it's something dangerous. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I send it in peace.
When
Back.
Katie was talking about her rocks, I could feel the rocks that, I pick up rocks and sometimes my hands tingle from the rocks because they're just the energy of it and the so forth. I know. I'm comfortable telling people rocks make my hands tingle now. I used to not be, but yeah, there is an energy that's out there in the mountains. It's like if I'm gone too long from the valley, that first drive and when you first see the mountains as you're coming in, it's like, oh, I'm home. Yeah.
And another thing, you were talking about that, and it made me think of the vortexes that are here in the valley. This is, and people have felt it that have come in here for some kind of a spiritual seminar. They get off the plane and they go, what's with this place?
Right. Yeah.
And I find that just fascinating, that it can be felt, by people who are probably more in tune than I am, for sure. I've gone to Sedona, to feel the energy, but I really don't have to leave the Vegas Valley.
No, it's palpable.
Yes, you can feel it on red rocks.
You can feel it. Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get into those really special places. Mine is Valley of Fire.
oh,
That's my special place to go to. Yeah.
Good too.
So driving through there and so forth. Anyway, so I think if nothing else, if we get a new way of looking at everything, at every ordinary thing in our lives, just look at the ordinary and understand the specialness of it. I remember one of the classes I was taking, they talked about the sacred versus the mundane, and we tend to think of our common ordinary things as mundane, but there's a sacredness to them. There's a specialness to everything, and I think as we begin to embrace that and even look for it, I think our lives shift a little bit. And just again, wonder about it. What is this here? What is here for me to know, as I look at the mountains? What is here for me to know when I'm talking to my trees? Or what is here for me to know as I'm loving on my dogs? What is here for me to know in this place? Because we're always in that unfoldment of our consciousness and ever expanding our relationship to everything around us. So I think this is it's a neat practice to be able to do that. And I had discovered Plotinus back in ministerial school when I was taking philosophy. But for a man that was born in Egypt, spoke Greek, lived in Rome, and was a Christian mystic, I think, he can use whatever words he wants to. I don't really care, He's got it all, yeah. So anyway, so I appreciate you all being here with us tonight and playing. We have some fellowship. We have some cookies and decaf coffee, so in case anybody wants a cup of coffee, and I saw Kelly bring some bottles of water. I want to thank those of you that are joining us online tonight. If you like what you see, please like the video. There's a little like button underneath of the YouTube video there. And if you were considering supporting us in any way financially, there is a link to click underneath of the video where you can go right to our website and donate electronically. We appreciate you being here with us, and we will see you all. Next week is mind-body connection. And I forgot to look up the topic again, but it'll be about the mind and body and how we can move through processes in our lives. No mystic. No, not a mystic next week. It's mind-body connection next week. So working with ideas like Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and Bruce Lipton and guys like that. Joe Dispenza, that's the one I was thinking of, Joe Dispenza. And some of their ways of healing some of the conditions in our bodies through our spiritual work that we do. So hope you'll join us next week.
I think I will for sure.
You think you will? Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for being here. Good night.